Hi, today we are going to know about air and water cooled chillers.
So it's 9:10. We will start. Okay. So let them join afterwards. We will start
Recording in
here.
progress.
Okay. So in our previous class, okay, we have finished till the duct sizing and the calculation and the plenum box sizing. All we have seen. Now we will see the next chapter, which is the chillers. What is chiller and how to design the pipe. Okay, pipe we are going to see in this session how to design the chill water pipe uh, from the chillers which are running to the AHUs and FCUs. Okay, so the water side we are going to see today. uh, so what is basically chiller and how many types are there? So yes, means our previous we have discussed that air cooled chiller and water cooled chiller. These two chillers are more frequently used, and in medium size building and area, we use air cooled chiller, and for high cooling and high means district cooling, we are using water cooled chillers. Okay, and we have also seen the capacity. Okay, so it's depend upon the tonnage and type of chillers. Means there are different type like reciprocational chillers, centrifugal chillers, scroll chillers, screw chillers, and we have also compared with the efficiency they are produced. Okay, so here is a chart we have already discussed as per the ASHRAE. So we will continue with. So I think, okay. So in what is chillers basically? So chiller are device that remove the heat that is gained by a recirculating chilled water system as it cools a building. The two types of refrigerant cycles can be used by chillers, either the compression cycle or the absorption cycle. So the air cooled chillers and water cooled chillers are the types of chillers, but they are also further divided into the based on the refrigerant cycles. Okay, so further divided into compression cycle and absorption cycle. So we are mostly using compression cycle, but nowadays absorption cycle are also in use for big warehouse system. Okay, absorption cycle are also in use nowadays, but the COP is very less as compared to the compression cycle. Okay, so the term chiller is used in connection with a complete chiller package, which includes the following: compressor, condenser, evaporator, internal piping, and controls. So the chiller package concludes compressor, condenser, evaporator. So these three are the an expansion valve. These three are the basic refrigerant cycle, but in chillers, internal piping and controls are also in addition. Okay, so it's in whole we can take it as a chiller package. Chiller is also used when all the components are used with a cooling tower. So chillers means the water cooled chillers. We are using the cooling tower, but we are not using in air cooled chillers. Okay. So the compression cycle, the liquid refrigerant at a relatively high pressure and temperature flow through a restriction called the flow control device or expansion valve. As we have earlier discussed that the high temperature and high pressure liquid which is compressed in the compressor cycle that flows through the capillary tube in the small split type unit, it's called as a capillary tube, but in a big units like chillers we call as a flow control device or a expansion valve. Okay, so the flow control device separate the high pressure side of the system from the low pressure side. Okay, It acts as a pressure reducing valve because the pressure of the liquid flowing through it is lowered and only a small portion of the refrigerant flows through the valve in the evaporator. Okay, so it's act as a pressure reducer. Okay, it reduces the pressure when the refrigerant flow through the expansion valve. It reduces the pressure as and the small portion of refrigerant flow through the evaporator. Okay, the refrigerant that flows through the evaporator is vaporized by the heat flowing through the walls of the evaporator. So what happens? As the evaporator we are using in the space we are going to cool, or in air cooled chiller, there is a evaporator tube is different and the compressor is different. Okay, so we are passing the refrigerant through the evaporator where the heat is flow through the walls of the evaporator. Okay, so the heat is gained by the hot water or the hot air which we are passing through the refrigerant in case of chillers. Okay, so after leaving the evaporator, the refrigerant in a gas at a lower temperature and pressure. So after leaving the evaporator, the refrigerant gas at a lower temperature and pressure, the pressure is already reduced in the expansion wall. Okay, and the temperature is also lowered. Okay, so to be able to use it again to achieve the refrigerant effect, it must be brought back to a high pressure liquid. So to again use the refrigerant effect, we have to brought back into a high pressure liquid. No, so what we do, the refrigerant flow from the evaporator to a compressor where the pressure is increased. So further from the evaporator where it gains the heat from the load, means the hot water which we are circulating through the FCU or AHUs, the heat which is gained, is passed through the evaporator coil, and the heat is gained and the hot water is then passed through the heat gained by the refrigerant is passed through the high pressure liquid line. Okay, so the compressor where the pressure is increased, the compressor then increase the pressure. Okay, so we will see what are the compressor and what are the types of compressor. Compressing the gas. Compressing. Okay. Compressing the gas also increase the temperature. As we all know that in a compressor, it compresses, no, the gas is get compressed by the screw or spool compressor. When we compress something, the temperature increases of any liquid or any fluid. So the same is happen with the refrigerant also. As we compress the refrigerant, the temperature increases of the refrigerant. The refrigerant travels to the condenser after leaving the compressor. So we are using condenser. Why we are using condenser? To reject the heat of the compressed refrigerant. So in the condenser, the heat is thrown to the atmosphere by using a centrifugal, by using a fan, axial fans, or through the this water or air in the in the water cooled chiller. Okay, so after leaving the compressor, the flow through one circuit in the condenser, in the other circuit the cooling fluid, either air or water. This is in the case of a chill water. Okay, so in air we are using about, we are talking about the air cooled chiller, and water we are talking about the water cooled chiller, where the cooling fluid here is air in air cooled chiller and water in a water cooled chiller. Flows as at low temperature lower than the refrigerant. Heat transfer from the refrigerant to a cooling fluid and the refrigerant condense to a liquid. Okay, from vapor. As we cool down the refrigerant, the change of phase take place of the refrigerant from vapor to liquid. Okay, so this is a change of phase and the actual compression cycle. We have already discussed, but you can have a look at how it's worked actually. So this is a condenser, so is evaporator. Okay, from the compressor it goes to the condenser where the heat is rejected. Okay, and then it passes to expansion valve. Okay, is very low volume is passes through this, and where the temperature and the pressure is decreases, here is a low pressure line. So from after the expansion valve, the pressure of the refrigerant and the temperature decreases, and then it's gain the heat from the evaporator, and then the high pressure and low pressure. This is how the actual refrigeration cycle works. What is the temperature or pressure valve? Please mention. Expansion valve, it's called as expansion valve. Here you can see this is where it's act as in normal refrigerator and air conditioning, split air conditioning, we are using capillary tube for residential, but here for chillers it's for a high, means high side, no, it's for a high area, so we will use expansion valve. Okay, so for a high volume of refrigerant we use it, so where the temperature and pressure is lower. Centrifugal compressor, so we will discuss now what are the types of compressor we are using. So most basically and widely used is a centrifugal compressor. Centrifugal compressor are variable displacement machine that provides pressure through the action of rotating impellers. Okay, there is a impeller, as we know, in a centrifugal pump. Okay, all have seen mostly the centrifugal pump, where by using a centrifugal force we are compressing the fluid and transferring. Okay, so it's the same basic principle here. So the action of rotating impellers, it sucks. Okay, it sucks the refrigerant and compresses. The fundamental design of a centrifugal pump is similar to that of a centrifugal pump. Okay, refrigerant vapor enters the compressor through suction passage and passing in the impeller. The impeller increases the velocity of the vapor. So here in the impeller, what it does, it increases the velocity of the vapor. Okay, the velocity energy resulting from the increase is converted to a pressure increase. After increase the pressure, after increase the velocity, the pressure increases. Overall, it's impacted the pressure. Okay, so the pressure is increases. Centrifugal compressor designed by the number of stages with one stage or for each impeller. So we can use as a one stage also, two stage also. Okay, same in a high rise building, means a very tall building, we are using a multiple uh, centrifugal pump, multiple multiple stage we call as a. So here also we can use multiple stage. Okay, to compress it further to increase the pressure. And next is the reciprocating compressor. Okay, so this is basically a centrifugal compressor. We will see what it actually look like. This is a section of a centrifugal compressor in a chiller. Okay, this is you can see on the chiller at the top there is a compressor here. Okay, so this is how it looks. You can see it in the drawing. So this here, see, basically this is a compressor here. Okay, centrifugal compressor, this is which compresses. Okay, basically. So here is a section of this centrifugal compressor. So what happens here, this is the inlet. Okay, from where the refrigerant is taken from the condenser, this condenser, no, from evaporator. Okay, from evaporator it sucks in, and then it passes to the impeller. So here you can see impeller, this is a impeller. It's connected to a rotating shaft. Okay, this is connected to a rotor. Okay, hermetic motor, here see, you can see hermetic motor. So this is a shaft connected to a impeller. So this is a impeller where it sucks from here. Okay, so it sucks from here and discharge from here. So it sucks here and compresses. Okay, the refrigerant is compressed and it passes through the here. Okay, it passes to here and further it's compressed to the, and then it passed through here, and then it is returned to the the high pressure refrigerant is high pressure and high temperature. Okay, then it passed to the condenser to reduce the temperature. So this is basically the working of the centrifugal compressor. Okay. So now this is a reciprocating type. So we will see how what. Hmm. The definition of a reciprocating is back and forth motion in a straight line. Okay, as we all know, reciprocating is back and forth. Okay, front and back. So what it basically tells is a like a engine. In an engine, there is a piston, no? So the basic same principle is here. We are using reciprocating compressor or positive displacement. It's called as a positive displacement machine that provides compression through the action of a piston squeezing refrigerant in a cylinder. Construction is similar to the reciprocating engine of a vehicle with piston, cylinder walls, connecting rod, and crankshaft. Okay, so the basic of a engine, you can take an example. So the same is happen here. There is a cylinder in between, and there is a piston and connecting rod connecting to the crankshaft. So it's move backward and further it's compress the fluid. So you can see here, this is the same. So this is a V-type engine. You can call this V-type engine. Here is one piston and here is one piston. Okay. So it's connected, means connected to a motor here further. So it will go like this and it sucks the refrigerant. Then it compresses it where the temperature is increases and pressure is increases. Then it is sent to the condenser. Okay. So the same cycle happens. Okay. So this is a reciprocating compressor. As the piston moves out of the cylinder, refrigerant vapor is drawn in. As the piston moves in, the refrigerant is compressed. Correct? And in most cases, the suction and discharge valve are either thin plates or reed that will open and close easily and quickly. So there is instead of a valve, there is a plates designed for the chillers, for reciprocating chillers. Okay. The reciprocating compressor is more widely used type available in space and fraction horizontal. So it is also used mostly. Okay. So screw compression can be used in a compression cycle in a complete chiller package. They come in two main types. Also, so as we have seen, centrifugal compressor and reciprocating. So the next is the screw compressor. So what is screw compressor? So it's come in a single screw also and twin screw. So this is a screw compressor. It's look like inside section of that. So the single screw compressor consists of a single cylindrical main rotor that works with a pair of gate rotor. Okay. So there is in between a single rotor and a pair of two rotors. Here is one rotor and that side is one rotor. Okay. So two rotor and in between one rotor. So compressor is driven through the main rotor. So this is driven through the main rotor and the gate rotor follows. Refrigerant vapor enter the suction chamber. So from the suction chamber, the refrigerant enter. As the main rotor turns, vapor is trapped in the space formed by the three sides of the fluids casing and gate rotor tooth. As rotation continues, the fluid volume decreases and compression occurs. Okay, as the three of them is in the working condition, it compresses. Okay, so you can see here. So see, this is a section, you can understand it easily. So here is a central rotor, here is one rotor, here is one rotor. So what happened when is rotate? Okay, when you rotate, what it sucks the refrigerant from here, and then this due to this gear rotor, it compresses the vapor. Okay, so this is a suction stage. This is a compression stage where it compresses when it rotates like this. Okay, so this rotates, it compresses, and then discharge occur from here. So this is a suction and this is a discharge. So what is a discharge? Discharge is a high pressure, high temperature liquid. Suction is a low pressure, low temperature. Okay, so this is a single screw and this is a twin screw. Okay, so single screw and twin screw. Twin screw compressor, how it works, consists of two mating helical groove rotor and a female in stationary housing with inlet and outlet port. As the two rotors rotate, the volume between the screw decreases with the discharge and the vapor is compressed. Here there is a two rotor, okay, and they are rotating at opposite direction. Here is a one rotor. Here there is a one rotor and two support gear, okay, but here there is a two rotor, both move anti-clockwise in opposite direction and it compresses here. Okay, so here also same, here also same. There is a gear profile here and it sucks here and it compresses and then it leave the compressor, high temperature, high pressure liquid. Okay, so and the next is a scroll. The scroll compressor is another type of compressor primarily used in residential. Okay, so the same basic principle. This is screw and there is a scroll type. So same basic principle is there. Okay, so the next is absorption cycle. So this is another type of cycle. We have seen now compression cycle. Okay, but this is a absorption cycle. So what is absorption cycle and how it works? Similar to the compression refrigerant cycle, the absorption cycle has a low and high pressure side. There is also low pressure and high pressure side. The main difference between the mechanical and absorption cycle is the way refrigerant vapor is eliminated from the low to the high pressure side of the system. So there it is a mechanical operation, no? So all the compressor that working is a mechanical because there is a gear in some there is a gear, in some there is a piston, in some there is a impeller. So it's mechanical operated, but here it's a absorption cycle is a different thing. Okay, it's work with the means the what to tell, the properties of the fluid. Okay, here it's basically the working of a property of a fluids. We are working on the property of the fluids. So the cycle of refrigeration cycle elevated from the low to high pressure side of the system. A compression system pumps vapor directly from the low pressure evaporator to high pressure condenser. Absorption system are commonly found in single shell or two shell. So this is a two shell absorption cycle. One is the absorber and one is a generator and condenser. Okay, here you can see. Okay, so because absorption process are often not well understood, a detailed discussion of absorption cycle will be provided here. Absorption is defined as a taking of matter of energy by penetration into a absorbing medium so that the absorbed matter or energy apparently disappears. Okay, so in a chemical process, absorption refers to the solution of a gas in a fluid, the solution being obtained by washing an intimate contact or a gas mixture with the liquid. In an ideal situation on equilibrium is attained, and there is a defined relationship between the concentration of the gas phase and the liquid phase of the absorbed component. Gas liquid absorption is accomplished in vertical counter current flow pattern through packed plate. The packed tower is a shell filled with a specifically shaped packing material. Plate tower contains plane has a various height within the tower. In a spray tower, the liquid surface is increased by forcing it through spray nozzle to form many tiny drops that fall through the rising gas stream. So it's basically a complicated system. To understand it, we have to we have to go in detail. Means it will take 1 hour whole class. So we will just go. Because it's not mostly used in our HVAC. So we can go on, means just in view how it works basically. So we will not go in a detail because it's not mostly widely used. Okay. So only for an example we are giving here, because the types we have to mention. No. So mostly the this compression cycle is mostly used. Okay. So there is a fluid in the fluid in the system which works in a because there is also a evaporator. Okay. Like here, like the our compression cycle, there is also evaporator and concentrator, high pressure side, and condenser. So basically this is how it looks. Okay, the absorption cycle. So direct expansion. So what is the direct expansion in evaporator? The direct expansion evaporator has a refrigerant inside the tubes and the cooled fluid, usually water, on the shell side. Okay. So this is a means shell type, means the tube and shell type expansion system. Large DX evaporator have two separate refrigerant circuit that help return oil to the positive displacement compressor during part load. DX cooler have internally enhanced rib tubes. Okay, rib tubes to improve heat transfer effectiveness. The tubes are supposed on a series of polypropylene internal baffle, which are used to direct the water flow in an up and down motion from one end of the tubes to the other end. Water velocity do not exceed approximately 1.5 to 2.5 feet per second due to the pressure drop concentration. So this is a DX system expansion. Okay, how it works? So warm water is flow through here, and the chill water is out from here. There is a, we will put it in the shell, and the tubes we will put the refrigerant. So here you can see liquid refrigerant in, refrigerant vapor to compressor. Okay, so this is how it works. The tube there is a refrigerant, and the shell there is a water. So the heat transfer takes place from the shell to the tube. Okay, refrigerant is in the tube and the water is in the shell. So this is how basically you can get an idea how shell and tube type is working. So this is a shell. Okay, shell inlet and outlet, and there is a tube inlet and outlet here. Okay. So further, there is an arrangement in the system. Okay, means we can call it as a primary and secondary arrangement. So in the chiller also there is a primary pump arrangement and secondary. So in primary pump we will use only a primary pumps to the chillers, but in secondary we will use the secondary pump also, means two circuit is there. In primary pump there is only one circuit. The one circuit will go through the load and chillers. Okay, it will complete by one circuit. So you can see here, and in any secondary circuit we can see primary pumps also and the secondary pump also. So secondary pump serves the load. Okay, so this is a secondary circuit and this is a primary circuit here. So what happens here? So the load from the here from the building. So after getting the heat from the load from through the FCU and AHU, the water is going to the what to tell this chillers, and then the this is a primary pump here, and then it will pump the pump the this chilled water to the building. So this is a primary pump arrangement. In case of a secondary, what happens? In case of a secondary, the primary pumps will work through the chillers, and it will move to the secondary side, means a primary circuit here, and the secondary pump will have a secondary circuit, so it will pump the water to the space, and it will complete one circuit, and the primary pump will have one circuit. So here is one circuit, here is one circuit, so there is a two circuit here. So what happened basically here, our load, building load is 600 tons, correct? The requirement of cooling is 600 tons. Here we can see, so we are using 50% load here. So we are using 3 chillers. Okay, one is standby, one chiller is a standby chiller, and the 2 chiller is 4 ton each. So the two 400 ton chillers we are using, means 400 means 800 ton. Okay, but our capacity, we are using 50% load only, no? So our building is required 600 tons, and we are having 800 tons capacity. Okay, so it's a safe side, means safe side we are using. And one chiller will be off here. Okay, this is a standby. In case of a failure of any chiller, this chiller will work and this will be stopped. Okay, so this is a standby system. So what is the total GPM we need here? Here we need total is 1440 GPM variable secondary pumping. Okay, but this primary pump, what it does? It pumps 960 GPM. Okay, and then it bypasses the 480 GPM. The remaining, so one okay. So if we minus 1440 minus 960, so the 480 GPM. So as per the requirement, only 50% load is requirement, no? So the remaining, what happens? It bypasses, it doesn't takes. Okay, as per the load requirement, then the further 480 GPM is again going through the chiller. Okay, so this is called as a primary and secondary pumping chiller arrangement. Okay, so the cooling tower, what is a cooling tower? So basically in air cooled chiller, we are using a fans, no, on the chiller, but in water cooled we are using cooling tower, no, because there is no fans in the chilled water, so we are separately providing the cooling tower. So so what are the types of cooling tower? So as we have already discussed, these are two types. So direct contact evaporating cooling tower and indirect contact evaporating cooling tower. So why it's called as a direct? Because the water and the air is coming in direct contact to each other. Okay, so we are calling as a direct contact evaporative. But here what happens? Here as a coil, okay, closed loop circuit here is there. So we are providing hot water from here, and we are using cold water here from here, and then it is going to the chiller. Okay, this we will discuss cooling tower approach afterwards. Now we just concentrate on this. So what happened here? Here there is a one baffle type, means the you can see it here in the this cooler, the home cooler. There is a one baffle type produced. So we are just putting water, hot water on that coils, means small porous will be there. So while passing the coil water with there, we are using here, there is a direct contact, so it's called as a direct contact, and here we are running a circuit. So hot water is going from here, and the water is we are pouring from above, so that heat transfer take place, and the working is, so we are calling as a indirect contact. Okay, cooling tower. So the next is, there are two common form used in HVAC industry, is a induced draft and forced draft. So the induced, what is the induced draft? Induced draft tower have a large propeller fan at the top of the tower, discharge and to draw air counterflow to the water. They require much smaller fan motor for the same capacity than forced draft tower. Okay. So this is an induced draft. Above that, you can see here there is a fan like the air cooled chiller. There is a fan above, so the air will suck from here. Okay, and it will move upward. So it's called as a induced draft. And what is the forced draft? The forced draft is here. You can see. So what happens here? Here the fan is at the bottom and it sucks the air and it push the air to the top. So this is the difference between the induced and the forced draft. Okay. So this is the basic of that. Okay, induced and forced draft. So the mode of selection, how we are going to select. So up to 25 ton we can go with the reciprocating compressor. 25 to 80 tons we can go with reciprocating or screw compressor. 80 to 200 tons we can go with the reciprocating screw centrifugal, and 2 to 800 tons we can go with screw or centrifugal, and above 800 tons we have to select centrifugal. So this is as per the ASHRAE standards for the selection of a compressor. Okay, chiller selection as per the tonnage. So this is a data, okay, as for designing of a pipes, chill water pipes. So this is also from ASHRAE table 7 for steel pipes. Okay, so for 50 mm size steel pipes, we have to go with 1.2 meter from the velocity should not increase 1.2 meter from second, and if the size of the pipe is about 2 inch, okay, above in 2 inch, so we can use 2.4 meter per second. Okay, as per the ASHRAE. So let's start with the pipe design. So this is a pipe sizer we are using. So it's a very efficient method. As for the duct sizing we are use the duct sizer. So same for pipe sizing we can use NACA air conditioning pipe sizer. Okay, so we will take an example here. So this is a drawing on project. Okay, so we will see how to design the chill water pipeline. Okay, so here's are the AHUs. You can see AHU1-2, AHU1-array. This is a FCU, sorry, not AHU, FCU. So this is a FCU, and this is a suction and return line. Okay. Okay, so here is also an FCU. So this is a pipe size. We have to, after designing, we have to put it here on the design drawing. So the shop drawing can be prepared by the contractor. Okay, so this is a design drawing we have to submit. The consultant will prepare this design drawing. Okay, after the designing, it will be go to the client and he will approve, and then it will pass to the contractor. So if there is any rectification or changes to be made, then the rectification changes will be made in the coordination with the contractor and consultant, and then the shop drawing is prepared. So this is a pipeline. Okay, so we are going to use schedule 40 steel pipes. Okay, so here as we see this is also for steel, so we will go with the steel pipe steel. So we have to use this velocity. We should not increase as per the ASHRAE recommendation. So we will use 1.2 meter per second. Okay, so this is a formula for GPM for the quantity of water required for the FCU. So it's based on the tonnage. Okay. So as we have calculated the tonnage, so we can convert it into GPM. Okay, the total volume of water. Okay, so 1 ton, how much? 1 ton is a 24 GPM. Okay, 1 ton is a 24 GPM by delta T is a formula. So in case of a district cooling you can use you in what is a district cooling means there is a means in a district, as we have discussed earlier also, there is a two or more buildings. So we are providing a central chiller plant in which we are installing the chiller, and from there it will go to each building. Okay, means if there is a three building there, so we are providing a chiller plant at the location, and we are running piping to the building 1, building 2, and building 3. So we are calling as a district cooling. And in case of a chiller, we are using dedicated chillers for a particular building. So it will supply for only one building. Okay, so but our this drawings and we are our project is for district cooling. So this is a district cooling system we are having here. So we will go with the district cooling. So the delta T in the district cooling is 16 degree we have to consider. Okay, and in chillers, dedicated chillers, the delta T is 9 to 10 degree. Okay, so after the conversion, 1 ton is equal to 1.5 GPM in case of district cooling, and in case of dedicated chiller is 1 ton is equal to 2.4 GPM. Okay, so let's see our schedule. So here is a schedule which we have to prepare after designing. Okay, this is fully is a schedule, but this is our unit schedule. Okay, FCU schedule which we are selecting for rooms, particular rooms. So here is a GPM column. Okay, and the CFM, the as per the heat load sheet, and the total MBH which we get from the heat load. So we have calculated no TMBH. Okay, TMBH kilowatt and TMBH. So this is a coil means load. Okay, so this we have to consider for getting the GPM. Okay, Fahrenheit, it is a Fahrenheit, not a degree Celsius. Fahrenheit. Okay, so let's see for our first floor. Okay, so what we get from the heat load sheet, we get what is the chiller here we are considering. So this is a remote, no, is a last remote FCU. So 1-2. So what the table tells us, 1-2. So this is 1-2. This is that unit. So what is the TMBH here? 21.40. Okay. So from this, how we will get the GPM? So we have to divide it by 12. So 21.40 TMBH divided by 12. 1.73 into what? How, what is the conversion factor? We get it in a tonnage, no? This is a tonnage. After dividing the TMBH by 12, we got the tonnage value. So this is a tonnage of that unit FCU. So after multiply by 1.5. So we are in case of a district cooling, no? So we are calculating designing for a district cooling. So we will use 1.5 GPM. So multiply by 1.5. So 2.67 GPM. Okay. So this is how we have to calculate GPM. So 2.675. So here is 2.65. So there is little difference. Okay. The correct value is 2.67. Okay, so instead of 2.65 we can use 2.67. It's a more accurate than this. Okay, so after getting the GPM, what we have to do, we have to open the pipe sizer. Okay, so after GPM we have to select the type of pipe. So in chilled water we are using 80 schedule 80 steel pipe. Okay, and the water, what is the properties of water is 50 degree Fahrenheit water we have to select. Okay, and so what is the two factor we have to select? Fluid velocity, as we have, as I have told you that as per ASHRAE, for below 50, below 2 inch, we have to, we should not increase the velocity of water more than 1.2. Okay, so so this is a velocity here, no, so it should not increase 1.2. Okay, and the head loss also should not increase, uh, also should not increase. So this value is in meter per second, no, but in, so in here that it is a meter per second. So 1.2 meter per second is how much? 4 feet per second. Okay, if we convert into feet per second, it is 4 feet. So the fluid velocity should not increase 4 feet per second, and the head loss also we have to see. So these 2 points we have to check. Okay, in case of a designing, so the head loss also should not increase 4 feet per 100 feet. Okay, it should be below 4 feet per 100 feet, and the fluid velocity also below 4 feet per second after conversion. Okay, of the unit. Okay, so let's start. So what is the GPM we got? 2.675. So we will first take the very smallest. So we will go with 1/4 inch pipe and 2.647. Correct? No, 675. 2.675. So what is the here? So it's exceeding 4 feet. No, it's here is 8.25. So it should not increase 4 feet per second, and the head loss also should not increase 1 to 1. So we will change the size, pipe size. So we will go select 1/2 inch, 2.675. So now what it's getting, we are getting the fluid velocity is below 4 feet, 4 feet per second. Yeah, it's okay. But the head loss is more than 4 feet per 100 feet. No, so then we are again we have to increase the size. So half size, so 3/4 inch. So after each after selecting every time the pipe size, we have to put the value of the GPM. 2.675, 2.675. So what we are getting, the fluid velocity is within the our limit. Okay, and the head loss is also within the limit, within mean below the 4 feet per 100 feet. So we can go with 3/4 inch pipe size. Okay, so the pipe size here is 3/4 inch. At it's not mentioned here, but the pipe size is 3/4 inch here. Okay. Hmm? So here it's showing 1 inch. No, so why it's showing 1 inch? Because this is the main header, and from the main header it's going to this unit also and this unit also. Okay, so we have to calculate 2 unit. So so the so the unit is same. Okay, the tonnage for each unit is same. So it's marked with 1-2, no? So this is a code word for each unit. So how much unit is there? 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, and 1-2. So total 5 unit is there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, of same tonnage. So first we will consider this pipe size. So what is the GPM for 1 unit? 1 unit is 2.67. For 2 unit it should be 5.35. So for 2 unit it is 5.35 GPM, no? So now we are calculating this pipe size. Okay, so we will put this GPM in our pipe size. So all will be 5.35. So what is here? What we get? Fluid velocity is less than 4 feet per second. It's okay. We can consider it. But the head loss is more than 4 feet per 100 feet. So it should be below 4 feet. Okay. So we will take the higher pipe size. So we will go with 1 inch. And what is the GPM for 2 unit? 5.35. So we will go with 5. So now the fluid velocity is 1.9. Okay, and the head loss is 2.2. So it's in within our range, which is below 4 feet per 100 feet. So this is how we have to design. So we have taken 1 inch here. Okay, so now we will see the this size. This is 1 and 1/4, no? So we have to consider 3 unit, no? So what is 2.67 GPM for 1 unit? So we have to multiply by 3. 2.675 into 3. So what we got? 8 GPM. Okay. So for 3 unit it's 8 GPM. So we will go with the pipe sizer 8.02, 8.025 GPM. And what we got? Fluid velocity 2.9. It's okay, within limit. For head loss is 4.68. So it's exceeding our value. It should be 4 feet per 100 feet, no? It's beyond 4.6, no? So we will go with the 1.4. And the GPM is 8. So now it's okay. We are in safe range. Okay, head loss and fluid velocity. So we will go with 1.4. So this is how we have to calculate the pipe size. Okay. Yeah, I will forward this software. Okay. No need to worry. I will forward all duct sizer also and pipe sizer. Okay. And our previous class material, as I am not getting the time. Okay. As I'm not getting the time to forward all the class material, but I will mail it to Sabri, and you can get the material from Sabri. Okay. So where we were? So this is so now we have to size this pipe, no? This pipe. Now we will size this pipe. Okay. So how much unit is connected to this main header? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with same tonnage. So this is total 5 unit, and one more unit is connected here. So this is 1/7. So this is different tonnage. So the tonnage is different as compared to this because the code word is different. No, so we have to calculate this pipe size first. So what is the we will go with the schedule here. So 1/7. So this is a /7. So what is a TMBH? Okay, so this is a TMBH, no? TMBH. This is the TMBH. Okay, from the heat load sheet. Okay, we have to put it here. And 1/7 is 4.20. So let's convert it. Okay. how much? 4.20 divided by 12. So we will get in, this is a tonnage, okay, and then we have to multiply by 1.5. So we are using district cooling now. So tonnage conversion into GPM is factor is 1.5. So into 1.5. So 0.525. What is this? This is a GPM. 0.525. So see, we got here 0.525. Okay. So we have taken the accurate. This is 0.52. So if you want to go with 3 digit, so it's more accurate than 2 digit. So as per your timing and if you use 3 digit, it will be more accurate. Okay. So we will use this 525 GPM. So let's go with the pipe sizer. So we will first we will go with the low pipe size. Okay, 3-4 inch. So 0. So what we got? The fluid velocity is 1.62 feet per second. It is okay. It is 4 feet per second. The head loss is 6.18. It is beyond 4 feet per 100 feet. So it should be below 4 feet, no? So we have to take the higher side. So we will go with 3/8 inch. So now it's okay. The fluid velocity is 0.88. Okay. And the head loss is also 1.4433, which is below 4 feet per 100 feet. So this is a 3.8 inch. Okay. So this pipe size is 3/8 inch. Okay. It's not mentioned here, but we will take it as a, what is 3/8 inch. Huh? This will be a 3/8 inch. And what is a GPM? 0.525. So just remember 0.525 and 2.675 was our which machine? This was 2.675, you know, for this 5 machine, and 0.525 for this machine. So 0.52, 2.675 into 5 quantity. As we know here, 1/6, no, 1/2, this one, quantity 5. Okay, yeah. So into 5, what we get? 13.375 plus 0.525, 13.9 GPM. So total GPM we are using in this pipe, this main header is how much GPM is flowing through this, how much volume of water is 13.9 GPM is flowing through pipe. So we will use the duct sizer or a pipe sizer. So we will go with 1 inch. Okay, let's see. 13.9. So what is here? Fluid velocity is more than 4 feet per second. Head loss is also more than 4 feet per 100 feet. So we will give it 1.5, 1.25 inch. 13.9 GPM. So now it's okay. The fluid velocity is less than 4 feet per 4 feet per second, and the head loss is also less than 4 feet per 100 feet. So we can use 1/4 inch pipe. So this pipe size is 1/4 inch. Okay. So like this, we can calculate this also. So this is 1.5 inch, no? So we have to take in account this unit also. So the GPM will increase and the pipe size also increase. So we will see this example also. Okay, let's cover it. So keep in mind 13.9 GPM, 9 GPM and 1.6. What is the TMBH or for 1.6 machine? So this is 1.6. What is 21.40? 13.9. Keep in mind, and 1621.40 to 1.40 divided by 12. So this is tonnage into 1.2 GPM. No, 1.5. So 2.67 GPM plus 13.9, 16.575. So let's go with the pipe sizer. 16.575. So what is the fluid velocity here? 3.5. Okay, is less than 4 feet per second, but the head loss is more. So we will go with the 1.5 and 6.57. So it's less than 4 feet per second, and the head loss is also less than 4 feet per 100 feet. So this is a safe design for pipe. So we are using 1.5 inch pipe in the drawing. So this is how we have to calculate the pipe size. So it will same for the AHUs also. This is FCU, but if you design for AHU also, the same principle we have to follow. So we have completed our pipes, means how to design the chill water pipes. So next our topic will be pump head calculation. Okay, so tomorrow we will continue with our pump head calculation. PMBH is the coil temperature which we get coil load, total load on the coil, which we get from the heat load sheet. If you have attended our heat load sheet class, you can know it. Okay, so let's end our class here. So we will stop here. Okay.
Artlist.io